Okay guys, working on the 4-link on old Johnny Ringo here. So let me show you what we got going on. You know, I've showed you the mounts and the brackets and stuff that we're going to use. But you know, I'm going to show you something that's probably, you're going to look at it and be like, what the heck? But so here's what we got. We got front mounting brackets, you know, tacked in place right now. Everything's lined up, squared up. It's tacked in. So we go up, and these are parallel. They're exactly the same all the way up. Now, with these extra holes, we can add or take away anti-squat if we want to make this car handle differently. You know, I'll talk a little more about that in a minute here. But so this mount here, it's on the back side of the axle. It's kind of funny, right? Yeah, I get it. But the reason I did that, because if we would have, like I said, we are cramped in this car for space to do what I want to do with suspension, and I definitely want to go 4-link, what have you, with air ride. So anyway, with this on the front side of the axle, that link bar would have been so short that the amount of throw on that axle from, you know, from ride height to full drop to full rise would have been inches. That thing would have moved forward and backwards. I'm guessing 3-4 inches, like with a link bar that short. And it's going to ride horrible. The shorter the link bar, the worse it rides. It gets real stiff. So didn't want to do that. So ended up making the brackets to go on the back side. You know, as long as we clear here, that's all we got to do. And like I said, this is full drop. It'll never get closer than that. Now, when we do full drop on the bottom, we got to check the bottom, make sure it doesn't get too close. But I've kind of done some math in my head on that, and I think we're fine. But anyway, that's what we've got going on. Also, while we're talking about the 4-link, I'm not sure if you can tell in the video or not, but the upper link bar is a little shorter than the lower. You don't have to do that. You know, even 4-link is fine. But what a short upper link bar does is actually add some anti-squat to the car. And what that does is, you know, I am no suspension geometry expert. I've done a lot of suspension stuff, but there's guys out there that are so smart with this stuff. I know enough to get me by, and I know what works and what works for me. And this works for me. But what this does, by going with a little shorter upper link bar, is called anti-squat. Changes anti-squat, changes roll center. But anyway, so what this will do is, as we throttle this thing, this shorter bar will actually tend to drive the axle into the ground as we're under throttle. So a little more traction is what it does. Tends to ride a little rougher with a shorter bar. Doesn't ride as smooth. Equal length bars will ride a little smoother, but you don't drive into the ground like you do with a shorter upper link. So this car is going to have pizza cutters on it. They're going to be skinny, and it's going to have a lot of horsepower. So I didn't go extreme on this. You can go a lot more extreme, and you can also change anti-squat different ways, which is why we have these holes. So also, if I want to put some more anti-squat in it, I take this bolt, we'll move it down to this hole. Or we can take this bolt and run it up to this one. It works either way. But when you move them links closer together at the front, you're adding anti-squat. And when you do that, that's the more it wants to drive the tire into the ground. The guys drag racing and stuff, you know, if you ever watch the slow-mo videos of those things, when they take off, the rear end actually drives the tire into the pavement. That's anti-squat. When you get too much anti-squat, it drives the tire into the pavement so hard that the tire springs back and actually picks the back of the car up and lightens it up, and that's when they blow the tires off right off the line. That's what they're fine-tuning on at the back of their cars. And it goes for dirt track racing, you know, all kinds of racing they do this with. So like I said, I'm not a complete expert on suspension geometry. I just know the basics and how this stuff works. And that's it. That's just a little tidbit of when you're building. I see so many guys that say, oh, the bars all have to be equal length. You know, equal length top bar, equal length lower bar. They got to be exactly parallel. No, they don't. A lot of guys like them that way, and that's fine. It works perfect. But if you want to change how your car rides in the geometry, then you have to know this stuff. And a lot of guys just don't know it, you know. And it's not that it doesn't work the way they're saying it does, but in my case, I want to drive my tire into the ground a little bit when I take off, because those little tires and the horsepower that we're going to put in this thing, it's not even going to try to move if we don't do that. So, you know, I'm trying to get a little power to the ground. Same way if you're driving on the road and you come around the corner and you want to stomp on the gas, you don't want the thing to blow around the circle instantly, you know, so you put some anti-squat in it, so when you stomp on the gas, basically the harder you stomp on the gas, the harder it tries to drive the rear end into the ground, which drives the tire into the pavement. And you know, that's just a little bit of tricks behind this stuff that a lot of people don't know. I see a lot of bad advice online on this stuff, and you know, and just because a lot of people don't know, and I get it. I mean, you know, not everybody's been through it. You know, they do it one way, or a buddy or somebody tells them how to do it, and that's just what they stick with because it works for them. And like I said, it works. It just, if you want to fine tune your car, I know we don't have no race car here. We're not trying to build a race car, but I still want it to handle right. I still want to do what I want when I hit the gas. So probably just about all of my builds, you will see me use multi-holes in my links, just because when you get that car built, you know, we've all put something together and you know, realize, oh, well, this thing rides a little rough, or this thing, you know, rolls in the corner, or just, you know, kind of walks around on the rear end or something. And boy, it'd be nice to go and change a couple bolt holes in your link brackets and make that thing handle the way you want it to. You know, that's why I do this. You know, maybe it's not the cleanest look because I have these extra holes and stuff in there, but to me, I like adjustment, and that's why I do a lot of 4-link stuff, because I can adjust this car. You know, if I feel like something's not right going down the road, we're going to change it. You know, we're going to get it right. So, you know, it's always a bonus to me anyway to have extra mounting locations, extra holes. I like it. I mean, you know, it seems to work out well. But anyway, so that's what we got going on. We got these tacked in place. We got our link bars. So I have a plan in mind. You know, and these bars are temporary. I didn't order enough of these nice fancy bums. So this end's just got a sleeve slug in it that's threaded for those 3/4 16 thread. And these are actually going to be stainless, I think, when I'm done. We're going to do stainless steel, polish them up, and then we're going to do something really cool with that stainless, and we'll show you that later. But these are just mock-up. As you can see, I've got stainless ends here. I sprayed some anti-spatter spray on them, because when I'm mocking up, I don't want to be spattering on my nice stainless rod ends. And I didn't have enough of these sitting around to mock up with. And also, I'm going to show you this while I'm here. So these ends, if you go with a rod end like this, or you go with this, these are fine. I usually use a rod end, but these are going to make a lot less noise. And, you know, I mean, if they get a little wear on them, they're not going to be clanging around and moving and stuff. But so they're nice too. Either one works fine. I use both. But these are 1 3/4 wide. These are 1 7/8 wide. So I want to be able to put either or on here later, you know, without having to machine bushings down and stuff. So what I did is I added a spacer, I added a washer in here. And that washer is perfect distance to bump that thing out to 1 7/8, just like these are. So now we can run either one. If these are wearing out too fast on me and they're driving me crazy or something, then I'm going to yank these off and I'll put Heims back in them. But if I had set this bracket up and that front bracket up just to accept these, then if I wanted to put Heims in them, I'd have to do a bunch of machining on spacers, or find special custom spacers that, you know, are 1 3/4 across, which I'm sure they make them, but, you know, 99% of the time when you get one, you know, they're 1 7/8. So just a little tip there when you're building. You know, once again, I like to be able to change stuff after the car is built if I need to. If there's something I don't like, I want to be able to change it. So yeah, that's what we got going on. We'll, I'm gonna get onto the other side and try to get that all mocked up just like this one, and you know, and then once we get that right, we'll get all this stuff welded in, and then we'll start making links for our sway bar. You know, we'll have to do our sway bar links right here up to the axle. I guess it's sway bar and lift arms. You know, that's going to be a pretty cool setup. I can't wait to get that done, and we can actually run that thing through the motions. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be a lot of stuff moving back here when it's done, but and a lot of stuff crammed in a tight area, because you know we still got to have our bags and stuff in here too. So anyway, that's where we're at. We'll keep on hammering on this thing. So just to kind of show you how I'm doing this to get it squared up. So we know our frame's squared up, we know this is squared up. So I basically put, you know, a chunk of aluminum right here, clamped it on, squared it, and then just clamped this piece to it. You know, clamp our 4-link mounts to the aluminum, so you know everything's right in line. And then underneath, I put a 1/2-inch chunk of aluminum because we need this thing 1/2 inch off of those bolts down there, so we can get them bolts in and out later on. So just a simple way of doing it instead of trying to hold everything and measure it all up. Very simple. We know it's square. Did the other side the same way. Worked out really good. So just little stuff like that can save you a lot of hassle in trying to square this stuff up. So yep, that's what we got. Alright, so got these tacked in place now. Now we know they're nice and square. We can take all the brackets and stuff off of them. You know, when we go to weld them back in, that's another story. We're gonna have to make sure everything is, you know, squared up, bolted together, firmly in place before we weld, because those things will draw. They'll draw pretty bad actually. So that's all kind of mocked up there and ready to go. Now we're going to get our rear mounts on the axle here, wherever I lay them. Let's see. Let's show them to you. Remember where I put them? Here they are. So just like the other side, you know, 2 of them on the back side. But now that we're squared up on the frame, you know, and I have my marks on this axle tube where these have to sit. So we're really good. We know we've got that all straightened up. And once we get these tacked on there, you know, we'll put a straight edge and stuff on these and make sure they're not off this way and this way or sideways or what have you. Hard for them to be off this way and this way because they're bolted together. But they can be off this way. You know, that side over there, it was off. When I tacked the top, we were off a 1/4 inch on the bottom. So I had to do a twist on those before we tacked the bottom ones. And I'm guessing the same way is going to be on this one. You know, just make sure before you do your last tacks that it's squared up. Not really a huge deal. So we got my buddy Hank here today. Hank likes to explore the shop, but so it's December in Ohio. It's really cold out today, so he don't like the cold that much, and his wife had to work today, so Hank gets to come to the shop. It's not his favorite place to be, but it's better than sitting in the house all day by himself. And like I said, too cold for him to be outside all day. So anyway, we'll get back at it. show you what I'm doing here. Trying to make these links for the sway bar or lift arms. And you know, I gotta stay pretty short with them, because the longer they are, the less, you know, the less lift we're going to get out of this thing. So wanted to keep them pretty short, plus the angles of the bars need to be up pretty high to kind of match the fore length, or get close to it anyway. So here's what I'm doing to try to keep these links short. You know, I kind of thought about doing a let me show you here. So I thought about doing, you know, two Heims. You know, there's 3/4, 2 3/4 Heims, but it's going to end up being pretty long. I didn't want to be that long, because that's how far we're going to be down away from the axle, plus the bracket on the axle, so it's going to be even farther than that. So what I ended up doing was this here. So we're going to do 1 Heims, because you want it adjustable. I mean, what happens when you get done and your car sits a little bit crooked on one side? Well, you can adjust it. So we don't need much adjustment, not to be that far off. So what this is, there's another one, there's one for the other side. This here is a COM 12 bearing. You can get them at pretty much all your race car shops, hell, Amazon, wherever. You know, Speedway has them. As a matter of fact, I think this is a Speedway bag there, and there's the part number on it. 721 COM 12. That's the part number. So that's the bearing. Is a COM 12 bearing. And then what I did is I took, here's a COM 12 retainer. And if you look down in there, you can see there's a snap ring groove right down in there. So that COM 12 bearing presses clear to the bottom, hits the shoulder, and then you put a snap ring on top of it. And what they use them for is like ball joints on these late models and stuff. But they got this big, long shoulder. You see how thick that is before you get down to the snap ring? So I just took and machined mine down, because I wanted to be closer to the snap ring. I had no reason to have it, you know, that much material above the snap ring. So I machined mine down so it's a 1/4 inch above the snap ring. These guys have to have this big shoulder because they're putting A-arm tubes on these. And they're A-arm tubes, I'm not sure what size they're using, but I'm guessing like probably 1.25 inch control arm tubes. And they wouldn't have enough meat on here if they did like I did. See how much I took off? So that's why they're tall like that. Not a big deal. But you can buy these, same thing, like, you know, dirt late model shops have them. I cannot remember the name of the place I got these from. I have to think about it. Maybe it'll come to me. But anyway, so I took that, and then I took one of these threaded bungs. You can see that. That's 3/4 16 threaded bung. Shortened it down and tube notched it and just welded it to one of those. That way we get short. And then right here we just ran a 3/4 16 rod end in it. That got me pretty short, but still leaves me adjustment. So that worked out well. You know, like I said, we could have done 2 of these in a row, you know, end to end, but you know, by time you get these things out, I mean, look how much longer that is, and that is as short as you can get it. So if you adjusted any, it's going to get even longer. So we didn't want that. I mean, could have cut these off, cut that off, fine, not a problem either. But you know, today I don't have enough of these to do this, so I had COM 12s and COM 12 buckets sitting over there. So, well, why not? The COM 12 bearing is kind of on the same size lines as a 3/4 Heims joint bearing, so they're plenty strong. Not going to be an issue there. So I'm going to get this other bearing pressed in here, and then we're going to start trying to figure out what brackets we want to put on the rear end, because you know, let me show you. So this is going to go down in here. We'll get a bolt through that. Let's see. The only thing I don't like is this nut. I may actually turn this nut down smaller because it won't fit in there. Now, if we want, we can lengthen this out and run the nut up. Not a problem. We got plenty of room there. So whatever we got to do, you know, if it's plenty of room there and we get enough lift out of this thing like that, then I'm okay with it. So it just all depends when we start setting this thing up. But that's where it goes in. We're going to bring us up here. We're going to put ourselves a mount right off the rear end, and then we'll go right through that COM 12 bearing. And what's nice about this COM 12 bearing is, you know, we can't just bolt to the side of it, obviously. So these fit in there right off the rod ends, right off the 3/4 rod end. These fit in there, but I'll show you something I'm going to have to do, because this COM 12 bearing is a little skinnier across it. So see how those are moving? So basically what I'm going to have to do is shorten right here. I'm going to shorten this up just a little bit. It's not much, and it's not precision at all. I mean, you can cut that thing with a hacksaw if you want. You just got to leave enough that goes halfway through the bearing, and you know, so it'll center itself. But it's not real critical. I'll chuck them up in the lathe, and I'll turn them in the lathe so they turn nice and smooth. But honestly, you could take this thing and, I don't know, put it in a vise and take your cutoff wheel and try to make an even cutoff, maybe, I don't know, not even a 1/4 inch on each side. I haven't mic'd to see exactly what it is, but I'm guessing it's less than a 1/4 inch on each side, maybe even 1/8 inch on each side would take care of it. But I'm going to do that, and then we'll be able to slide this thing up in a bracket on the rear end, and it'll actually move around and walk around if it needs to, you know, and keep us where we're floating. So we got that all welded up on there, come out good, you know, we got good penetration on it. You know, I thought about making another pass on it, but I don't know if it needs it. So you better be pretty confident in your welds on this piece, though, because remember, this little arm here with that weld on it is what lifts the whole back of this car up. So if you're going to weld that, be confident in your welds. It's got to hold your car. So, all right, I'm going to get some mounts made up here and see what we can make happen. Here, I want to come back to this real quick before I get onto the bracket. So I was just saying, you know, be confident in your welds because it's got to hold your car up. If you're not, if you're worried about this, you know, there's other ways around it. So if you're worried about this, you think it's an issue and you're worried about that weld holding, I'm not. You know, I'm confident my weld's going to hold. If it doesn't, well, then it's on me. I guess the back of my car will be sitting on the ground. But if you're not, so see that threaded bung? Same thing. You can get these from Speedway. They are, you know, 3/4 16 thread. And let me set this camera down so I can show you a little better. So this and this, let me see, this will thread right in, you know, and this will thread in too. So even if you thread these all the way together, we know they're going to be too long, right? So we're trying to get the same length. We're trying to get the same length as this one I just made. So if you want to do that and you don't want to weld this, so take that one there, you know, cut that much thread off each one of them, and then run this bung in. Or cut the bung down, like I have some shorter ones here. I've cut these down. So you could take a short bung, cut some thread off of that one, some thread off of that one, maybe half the thread off each one, and put these things together. You know, where you can get that thing down short enough. You know, that way they're threaded together, they're jam locked in. You know, I mean, they got jam nuts on them. This one will have a jam nut here, and you can lock those things in. Then no welding. You don't have to worry about your weld. So if you're not confident in the weld doing that, then, you know, you can do it other ways. You know, just gotta think about it. But, you know, like I said, I may have even done it this way myself if I had enough joints here. I don't. You know, you know, these are left hands, those are left hands. These are the only 2 rights I have. Well, 3 rights, and these 2 are aluminum. But, you know, I could have cut these down. I don't want to use aluminum on this, so I didn't want to go and cut these aluminum down for mock-up and then ruin them, because I know I'm not going to use them. So if I'd had steel ones here, I would have cut them down and just went that route. But since I didn't have them here, we went this route, and it works out great. So just keep that in mind. You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and you know, you just got to think about it. All right, having some problem with my camera. I'm not sure if it got that or not. So I'm gonna go over it again a little bit. But we got this mount tacked in. So I wanted to keep these at the same angle, and they are. They're really close. You know, you'll never get them exactly the same. The travel is going to be a little different on them because this pins right here and this one pins right here. You know, you can't. It's not going to be the same. If this was out here, then we could get them exactly the same. But we'll get them close. So, you know, put our gauge on there, 19.7 degrees. Let's go under it. 19.75, 19.8, floating around there. You know, if it's within a degree or so, you're never going to see it. But anyway, that's more, you know, just for visual look, because, you know, we have a swing on here. So this swings. It doesn't matter if, you know, this travels farther out than this one does on the way up and down, because this is going to swing both ways. So not going to be an issue. You just want to be able to look at it and know that they're all at the same angle. It just looks better. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to put another couple tacks on here and move on probably to the other side. My dog is not very happy. He's wanting to go home. He says it's after dinner time, so he's kind of getting antsy at the door. But anyway, we're going to tack this up and maybe get another, I don't know, 20-30 minutes here before he forces me to leave.